Welcome back, everybody. This Week in America. Thank you for joining us on the program. Website, of course, thisweekinamerica.us. As mentioned, back with us on the program, Dr. Allan Hedberg, a clinical psychologist maintaining a private practice in Fresno, California. He's written 7 books, working on book number 8. He received his doctorate in 1969 from Queen's University in Canada. He's published over 75 papers, presented many professional seminars on various topics: addiction problems, marriage, family enrichment, the aging brain, depression, and leadership. He's active in professional affairs, held offices in several professional organizations. He's the founding principal of Avante Health and Avante Behavioral Health, which provides behavioral health care and EAP services to private companies and governmental entities in California. Back with us on the program to talk about his book, Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. Dr. Hedberg, always a pleasure to have you with us on the program. Thanks for joining us once again.
Well, thank you. Good to be with you again. Looking forward to some good discussion.
Well, it is our pleasure, and it's always fun to have you on. And the book we're talking about, it's the first time we've discussed this, Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. First, let's talk about it. It's interesting how you decided to write this book, because what this sort of evolved over time as you were dealing with some of your clients, some of your patients, you suddenly realized there could be a book in the messages I'm hearing here.
I think so. You know, I grew up in a home where my father gave a lot of mottos to us as children. And I remember one motto that he would say is that, you know, rich people have money. Poor people have money, but rich people have money and problems. You know, and that's really kind of a mini lesson. And he would say, let the water go over the duck's back, or just let it rain. You know, when problems came upon life, he would have these little phrases and mottos that he would say, and I grew up that way, and I came to be interested in them. And then as I became a therapist, I started to ask my own patients, what mottos did they grow up on? What mottos did their fathers express to them? So I accumulated over 100 mottos over a period of time that people, you know, grew up on and shared with me, and we were able to discuss that as part of the therapy program. So it's kind of an emerging and evolving kind of a lesson, you know, for me. And I was able to share that then with patients and give them a lesson in life as well as they were trying to make changes in their life.
When you're talking motto, it's interesting because the book is 77 Mini Life Lessons. These really are mini lessons, aren't they? And when you read the book, you're not talking about 10 pages on a mini lesson. We're talking about, a page and a half, maybe 2 pages most, on each individual motto.
That's right. Every book is about a page, maybe a page and a half. It sets forth a motto, and then I discuss it as to what that motto meant to that particular patient of mine, and then how I interpreted that motto and used it in their therapy so that they could gain benefit, you know, from it. And, you know, some mottos were negative. Fathers used them to kind of club a kid over the head or to, you know, kick him in the pants or motivate him in some way. But most mottos were instructive, they were positive, they were helpful. So I try to use them to help patients see that if you take that motto and think of it and use it every day in your life, you can make positive changes in your life. So there are many lessons as to how we can improve.
The book is called Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. It's written by Dr. Allan Hedberg. Information available at Dr. Hedberg's website, which is author allanhedberg.com. It's ALLANHEDBERG. Author allanhedberg.com. Of course, the book is available at Amazon as well, and you can link on directly by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. One of the nice things, Doctor, in looking at the book, it's not one you have to pick up and go, okay, I need to spend a half an hour, 45 minutes. In fact, you encourage the back of the book. You're like, you know, you don't even have to go through this in order. Sort of look and see what's going to give you some benefit in your particular situation. Read it and go on from there.
It's not a novel.
Right.
It's not something you start at the beginning and end, but it's a book that has lessons throughout. And you find the one that seems to relate to you as to where you are today in your life and the circumstances you're facing and the situations, decisions you're making in life. Find a motto that might give you some guidance, might give you some sense of motivation and encouragement and direction, and then use that and kind of go from there. Kind of pick and choose. It's a mix and match kind of a book, but it should be around your needs, your interests, the decisions you're making at this particular point in time in your life. These kind of books that are instructional, motivational, should not be read from beginning to end, from day one in January to day 31st in December. No,
Right.
they need to be selected and used so that they are most helpful to you in your day-to-day life.
In each motto or mini lesson, you've got Experiencing God, a section that you do, and touch points. Talk about that, because it really puts everything we just read in those few paragraphs into focus.
Well, at the end of each mini lesson, I do kind of bring it to a point about what this might mean to one's own faith, how one can take a motto that he grew up on from his father, and then say, okay, what does that mean not just to me and how I live my day, but what does that mean to me in the development of my own spiritual faith and my own spirituality? So I try to put some kind of a context of religious thinking or faith development in each of these mottos that I discussed. The touch point was just to kind of look through history and look through people that have made quotes in their lives and have made, we'll call them famous or very important statements that are, again, something that you take as like a mini lesson and learn from it and use it in the course of your day. We need these kind of touch points in our life.
Yeah, the book is Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. It's interesting, and we'll talk about some that you have in there. Some of these you've heard forever, maybe to the point where you don't even really listen when you hear the words anymore. Just sort of by rote, you say that. And now with the book, Lessons from My Father, you go back and it's like, okay, there really is a reason for this, why Dad told me this years ago. One of the book is, the motto is, you can succeed and don't let anyone say you can't. It was a patient of yours, Jessica. Tell that story, because it's interesting. In talking about Jessica, here's something that her father said to her that during a time of grief really came back to help her get through this difficult period. And the grief was the loss of her father.
Yeah, she was a patient of mine that came following the death of her father, and she was dealing with the grief of his loss, but she couldn't get over it. And it was like she got stuck. And this was going on now for 6 months, 9 months, and she was bothered by it because she was getting more and more depressed. So when I started to ask her about her father and we talked about him, I said, what do you remember about him? What was some of the things that he might have said that you remember? And she came up with that particular motto, which I thought was really profound. You can succeed and don't let anybody say you can't. This is a father that motivates a child to be successful, to achieve, and to excel. And this is a father that worked hard himself, but he wanted his children to be successful. So she grew up that way. And it was a matter of now having to succeed on her own without him. So that motto then became a kind of a good thing for her to say, yes, you miss your father, but keep remembering some of the things about your father. Remember this phrase, this motto that he shared with you, so that it will live in your life, and be proud of it. Not be ashamed of it, not be in sorrow, but be proud of the fact that your father lived that kind of a life. He succeeded. He wants you to succeed and go on and live and succeed. And she came through therapy very well. After about 4 or 5 sessions, she was fine.
It's interesting. What a great legacy. I mentioned helped her get through the grief of losing her father, but also helped her then in real life. In her personal life, it gave her more confidence. The same with her business life. So here's something that even though Dad is gone, those words, you can succeed and don't let anyone say you can't, will resonate with her forever. Your touch point there was success comes in the cans, failure in the can'ts. That's something we all could remember as well.
That in itself is a lesson.
Yes.
If we can, it's the way we think. And if we can think in terms of I can, like her father was trying to convey to her, then we can move forward, even at times of difficulty and times of great stress and loss.
Our guest on This Week in America is Dr. Allan Hedberg. Allan is Allan, Hedberg, Hedberg. The book, Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. The book's available at the website of Dr. Hedberg, author allanhedberg.com, of course at Amazon, available by linking to our website as well, thisweekinamerica.us. Another patient of yours, Tim, what stuck with him, the motto as you're talking with him is, don't run up the stairs and don't run down people. And this is interesting because he was really, in those words, taught a very valuable lesson in sensitivity, wasn't he?
It really was. Tim was in a kind of a multicultural neighborhood. And it was easy now for a white family living in a black neighborhood to put down the other race. And his father was very quick to say, you don't do that. You don't run upstairs. That's not good for your heart. Not
Yes.
good for your health. But don't run down people either, because that doesn't win friends, and that doesn't help people. That doesn't bring people together. That separates people. That divides people. And what you need to do in life is to look for people that you can bring into your life, not push away. So that's why that phrase was so important to him, because I wanted him to kind of learn to be more accepting of people of a different race, of a different age than his. I wanted him to be more involved and more connecting with people in his life, rather than to separate himself out from others and others from him. And I think that's the message of America today. We need to not run down people of a different race. We need to embrace them. We need to include them. We need to bring them into our life so that we become one. We're Americans. We're not separate people by race or by age or ethnic background or whatever it might be.
That's why the book is
today.
and that's why the book is so important. So many lessons like that. Lessons from my father, 77 many life lessons from dear old dad and historical fathers. Again, you suggest to start go wherever you want in the book and look for a particular topic. Eventually, you'll end up reading all of it, and you'll be a better person because of it. Another case in there is the story of Mark, and these are fictitious names, not the actual names of the people that you dealt with. Money is the root of all evil, and Mark came from a family where money was really sort of prevalent. And talk about that, because this model was important to him. Yeah,
monetarily, the father, that was the motivating factor in his father's life. It's to make money, to make more money, make more money, make more money, to the expense of his family. He neglected and ignored his children, and particularly Mark, the son. And Mark was very resentful to the father, and resentful to the fact that now he was in business himself, and he felt he couldn't make money. It wasn't right. He felt guilty when he started to make money. And I helped him make the distinction between money being the root of evil. That's not the case. It's the love of money which is the root of all evil. And I says, Mark, so long as you not love money and be obsessed with money, it's all right to make money. And in fact it's encouraged to make money, to be wealthy or to be successful and to achieve, but don't live for the love of money. Don't live for the love of success. Don't live for the love of achievement. And that made sense to him. And he really did get a sense of peace about that, and was able to go on in his own business in a much more comfortable way and developing the business, and it really did flourish, actually. I was glad for him.
Money is the root of all evil. Something that simple can actually be life-changing when it's presented in the proper way, and it was in this case. Dr. Allan Hedberg, our guest on the program. Steve was one that you talk about in the book, and what really put his life in perspective. The motto, when the storms of life come, it's too late to learn how to swim. Boy, that is so important. We tend to put things off, and all of a sudden, we may find it's too late.
Yeah. I had never heard that motto before. That was the first time I ever heard it. Steve had cancer, and he was dying. And I became part of his life as a therapist during that time. And again, I got him to talk about some of the things that he remembered from his past, some of the things that were important for him to pass on to his family, to make sure that he passed on to his own children important lessons, important experiences, and events in his life, so that they had something to grab a hold of when he died. And in my conversation with him, he says, I had thought about this. He says, but my dad would always say to me, when the storms of life come, it's too late to learn how to swim. So we interpreted that, what that would mean, not only to him, because he was in the storm of life. He was in the midst of dying. And no longer could he learn new lessons. No longer could he do new experiences. He couldn't change his lifestyle. He couldn't change the things that he did in the past. Those were done. But he could tell the children that they need to look ahead and be prepared for the storms of life. Be ready for the storms of life. Know how to deal with the storms of life. Know how to deal with trauma when it comes in your life. And he was able to bring his kids around him and talk about that. And it was a moving experience for not only him, but for his family, for 3 children and his wife. And he talked about how important it is for them to learn how to deal with the difficult times that's inevitably going to come into their life.
And it's interesting because as I'm reading these, it benefits the reader, and I'm assuming in this particular case as well, it benefits everybody the reader comes in contact with. In this case, it was your patient, but if you're reading that, suddenly you become a better person, possibly more understanding, and other people will look at you differently, and you will touch them in a positive way.
It's a kind of a pass-on kind of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
You pass it along, and it's important to make sure that you have this sense of sharing, this giving away. It's the knowledge that you've gained. You want to give that away. It's the experiences you've had. You want to share those. It's the lessons that you've learned, maybe the hard way, but you want your children to have those same lessons, but not have to learn them the hard way. I mean, that's the way we think about our children. We want them to learn important lessons, but not the hard way in life.
Yes.
We had to go through that.
Yeah, so we're going to try to make it a little easier for you. Dr. Allan Hedberg, our guest on the program. Allan is Allan. The book is called Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. The book is available at the website of Dr. Hedberg, author, allanhedberg.com. It's available at Amazon and, of course, at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Time for a couple more of the mini lessons. And here's an interesting one. Rob was a youth leader in a Christian organization. We win or lose by the way we choose. Very simple words.
Decision-making.
Yeah.
Decision-making is really choosing options. And options have consequences. When we make choices, there are consequences with those. And we win or we lose. If we make right choices in our life, we have a life of win. If we make the wrong choices in our life, we have a life of lose. So I'm trying to say there in that particular lesson that this guy understood too, that it was important to look at the decisions you make relative to the consequences that are going to come. What's going to result from the decision you make? We often look at how to get out of a situation. How do I get out of this circumstance the easiest and the fastest way possible? Well, that may not be the best, because you have to look beyond it. What's going to happen down the road, a week, a month, a year, 10 years from now? What's going to be the consequence of that decision? So we win or we lose by the way we choose.
And as you read that, you're sort of thinking, boy, we face all these little decisions we may think are inconsequential. And then as I'm reading that, I'm thinking, are they really as little and inconsequential as we think we are? Because they all attribute to something. They all add up for something greater.
Mottos are powerful. There are many lessons. They are powerful. And they can take a life and change it for the good and for the positive, and to give people a sense of importance and value and desirability. I mean, mottos can change your life and be part of your future and part of the way that you think and the part of the way that you behave and the way that you treat people.
It's interesting because as you're looking, and again, the mottos may be 6-8 words. They may be 15 or 20 at the most, not a lot. And the explanation, the many lessons in the book by Dr. Hedberg, again, a page, maybe a page and a half. Time for one more, and this is interesting. Dr. Lorne Sanney, and he had Sanney-isms. I love that. You do a whole book on those. His mini lesson, his motto, you can either make a mark with your life or you can make a blur. Explain why that captured your attention when you heard that, because you were like, yeah, I really like this.
I really did like that, because that's really what it is. We live our life, and we die. And then we say, have we made any impact? Do we make any difference at all on the world in which we live, the community in which we live, the family for which we are responsible? And there are so many people, and it's sad to say, there's so many people that live and die, and within a moment's time, their life is a blur. It's gone. They're forgotten. There is no living thing that they leave behind. There's no meaningful message that they leave behind. So my point here is that live your life so that there is something of impact, there's something of value, there's something of importance that you leave with other people, that you give to other people, and that you share with other people, and it becomes part of their life and their legacy that they carry on to their people that they live for and are responsible for. So we want to live a life that has some meaning and value and impact on the world in which we live, the community in which we live, the home in which we live, and not just come out at the end by saying, my life was a blur. How sad, how sad.
The book is an excellent one. It's called Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. Short messages of encouragement and inspiration. And reading some of the reviews, a number of people have bought several, one for themselves and a couple more to pass around the office or to family members. It is interesting, inspirational reading. Again, you can spend 2 minutes a day reading before you be off to work. You can sit and read a little bit longer. It's something you can read and add to every day. Our guest on the program has been Dr. Allan Hedberg, ALLAN HEDBERG. The website for the book is authorallanhedberg.com. Of course, it's available at Amazon, other bookstores, and information available, and you can link directly to Dr. Hedberg's website by going to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Doctor, it's been a pleasure, as always, to have you on the program. We will have you back talking about more of your books. Lessons from My Father, excellent job. It truly is a book that will, I think, inspire a lot of people. Excellent job with it.
Thank you. Let me just add one other point.
Sure.
What I found in developing these mottos is that 80% of the mottos that I learned from my patients came from their fathers. Fathers are the ones that give kids mottos and make these kind of statements and are the teaching parent within a family. Sad is the child that does not have a father because they miss this kind of thing. Mothers don't seem to give mottos, but fathers do. And if you're a father listening to this, make sure you give your kids the mottos. If you're a mother, start doing it. But make sure your kids get mottos that to live by that will live way beyond your life when they become adults and independent.
Interesting. And again, the book is called Lessons from My Father, 77 Mini Life Lessons from Dear Old Dad and Historical Fathers. Dr. Allan Hedberg, our guest on the program. Doctor, thank you so much. Look forward to having you back in the program.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're listening to This Week in America, website thisweekinamerica.us.